What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to MMA Today. If you are new, please go ahead and consider subscribing. And I just want to show love to all the fans and all the people who left comments and reacted to my last video. A lot of good things to say, and it was a really interesting comment section reading through it. But in today's video, we got Islam Makhachev, Jon Jones, and Alex Pereira. So the new UFC pound for pound list came out, and Islam Makhachev was ranked number 1, as we know. Pereira now moves up to number 2, and Jon Jones slides down to number 3. And Dana White might actually have a heart attack.
The media votes on that. Then it just goes to show you that they have no fucking idea. They know nothing about this fucking sport.
So, Dana White recently has been pushing Jon Jones pound for pound number 1 very hard. I'm telling you, after Islam's fight at UFC 302, he went out of his way. No one asked him about Jon Jones. He went out of his way to discredit what Islam did and said Jon Jones should be pound for pound number 1, right? And I'm just thinking about it. When I'm looking at the rankings, I like this. I like that Islam 1, Pereira's 2, Jon Jones 3, because to me, pound for pound list, you have to be active, and Jon Jones hasn't been that active. And even when he was active, his last 3 fights, 2 of them were really close fights against Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes. And what happens to those guys after they fought Jon Jones? Thiago Santos is in Bellator, PFL, whatever. And Dominic Reyes went on a 5-fight losing streak where he was getting knocked out by every single body. Just activity-wise, Jon Jones has only had 1 fight. 1 fight. Jon Jones has only had 1 fight since 2020, and that's against Ciryl Gane. And if you guys know, Ciryl Gane is one of the best strikers in the heavyweight division, like the history of the heavyweight divisions. We know he's really good at striking. We know his weakness is wrestling. Ciryl Gane got taken down by Ngannou multiple times. He got body slammed by Ngannou on one of them, right? And Ngannou's weakness is wrestling. So how did you get out-wrestled by a guy who isn't a wrestler? And now we got Jon Jones facing that guy. What do you think is going to happen? We know Jon Jones is going to kill him, right? And that's what he did. He submitted him within the first 3 minutes of the fight, over, right? But Dana White went on the press conference and paraded around like Jon Jones is the greatest all time, just to really stick it more to Ngannou more than anybody. He's saying that Jon Jones beat the greatest heavyweight in the world right now, which was Ciryl Gane, for that title, which is a lie because Ngannou beat Ciryl Gane already. Mind you, Alex Pereira only joined the UFC in 2021, and since then, he has got the middleweight title, right? And got the light heavyweight title, so he became double champ, and he defended the light heavyweight title. He has fought 9 times since 2021. Not 2020, 2021. Islam Makhachev, on the other hand, right? Since 2020, he has fought 10 times. He has beaten the pound for pound number 2 guy, right? Charles Oliveira, who they were claiming that Charles Oliveira at that time was better than Khabib. And then he beat Volkanovski in his hometown. He's defended his title against Volkanovski in Volk's hometown, right? And then he beat Volkanovski again. And the funny part about the whole Volkanovski scenario or situation was when Islam beat Volkanovski the first time, even though Volkanovski was ranked number 1 on the pound for pound list, they didn't even give it to Islam. And Dana White said, yo, you're supposed to beat the smaller guy, so you're not supposed to be pound for pound number 1. It took all the way until Islam knocked out Volkanovski the second time to give him the pound for pound number 1. It took until then. And then since then, Islam fought Dustin Poirier and submitted him in the 5th round this last month. And Dana White got on the press conference to shit on Islam for doing that. Let's go back to that. All right, so this is the post-press conference after Islam beat Dustin Poirier. It had nothing to do with Jon Jones, right? Jon Jones wasn't even mentioned here. The reporter asked Dana White, how do you rank Islam with the greatest lightweights ever, right? We're not talking about pound for pound, nothing like that. We're talking about lightweights. Here's what's on Dana White's mind.
For him and kept that jab in his face and kept pressure on him basically the same way he did Izzy.
Tanner right here. Joe Rogan on the broadcast called Islam the perfect lightweight, and they're just the size, his style of fighting, just his fight IQ. I'm curious, like, where do you rank him in this pantheon of lightweights that we've seen over the years?
Yeah, I think he's one of the greatest of all time. I don't think he's, I think he's incredible. I don't think he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world. For anybody to call Islam the pound for pound best fighter in the world when Jon Jones is still fucking fighting is nuts and shouldn't be ranking in the pound for pound or doing any of the fucking rankings ever, if that's what you really think. Jon Jones has never lost a fight ever. He's fought all.
Dana White's really fixated on Jon Jones's career and not what he's doing currently. He's thinking that if Jon Jones fights, even though if it's one fight every 4 years or so often, he's going to be pound for pound number one. It doesn't work like that. Eventually, when you're in activity and you not fighting the best competition will work against you. It's not saying that Islam is better than you all the time. It's just currently on the list. If Islam's doing more work than you and fighting better competition than you are, right, we're going to rank him ahead of you, whether you like it or not. But the thing about Dana White is he's literally shitting on the fighter who just saved this boring card. This card, UFC 302, was very boring. Islam's fight reportedly saved the card because if it was a snooze fest, they would have been ranking this as one of the worst cards of all time. And Islam, even on Twitter, went out and said, Dana, you should be thanking me for saving you can have your opinion, but you should be thanking me for saving this boring card, right? But instead, Dana White goes out there and shits on Islam.
All the baddest dudes in the world. And then when you think about what pound for pound rankings really mean, he moved it up to heavyweight and destroyed the best guy in the world. As long as Jon Jones is still fighting, active, and in the rankings, yeah, nobody's pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Well, to kind of
going off that, it was funny because Volkanovski and Islam, when the UFC set up their first original fight, Dana White built it as, hey, this is for pound number one, Volkanovski versus Islam. And by then, Jon Jones wasn't even fighting. I think he was still trying to put on weight for heavyweight or whatever he was doing, right? Or it was a contract dispute. So I can't remember exactly which one was it. But it was billed as Islam Makhachev versus Volkanovski for the pound for pound number one. Islam beats Volkanovski in Australia. They still kept Volkanovski number one. And then Islam knocks out Volkanovski in the rematch, right? And Dana White literally shits on Islam again, saying, hey, Volkanovski's not even your weight class. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to beat him. You're supposed to knock him out. Like, what's the point of building fights as pound for pound number one, making them a huge fight, and then going and shitting on the person when they win? And then we move on. The next video, same thing. This is UFC 303 within the same month, right? Alex Pereira, they were asking Dana White, how does he feel about Alex Pereira moving up to chase that third championship? That was their question. It was nothing to do with Jon Jones. And Dana White has to make it about Jon Jones for some reason.
Heavyweights are, 265. They're cutting to 265. It's just a whole nother level. I mean, that's why I think this is the problem with the conversation that we're having here and why people aren't giving Jon Jones the respect for pound. This fucking guy destroyed the best heavyweight in the division. Easily made it look like nothing. Jon Jones is the pound for pound best fighter in the world and the greatest fighter fucking ever. Period. End of story.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but he hasn't fought it in a long time, but, in Stipe in a longer time.
He got hurt.
No, I get it. I'm not criticizing.
He was trying to fight.
I'm just saying, yeah, no.
Yeah, well, it's not like he's just fucking sitting around and doesn't want to fight. The guy came to fight. It's the first injury he's ever had.
Quick interjection here. Shout out to this reporter. A lot of these reporters are so scared of Dana White that they don't want to ask him real questions, right? And they don't want to rebuttal with them because they're scared that they're going to get in trouble, whatever. We need more reporters stepping up to him. Like, what is this, man? But shout out to this guy.
And listen to me, I'm not defending Jon Jones. You know what I mean? Jon Jones has been one of my biggest fucking headaches in the entire time that I've been in this company, right? And, the guy hasn't been the model, fighter in the company. No matter what you think of Jon Jones, he's the fucking best ever, and I think pound for pound best fighter in the world. And he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Yeah. Well, except that he hasn't fought in the last year, so he's not.
Because he got hurt.
Yo, tell him.
He got injured.
But if you don't...
If you were coming into a fight and you fucking got hurt, that means you're not the pound for pound best fighter in the world anymore? How does that even make sense? It doesn't make sense.
When he fights,
right? If he was sitting out and fucking getting arrested and running around or whatever, and you're like, well, Jon Jones is inactive, I'd say,
Inactivity is inactivity. Whether you're hurt or not, you're inactive. You're going to lose stuff when you're inactive. And this funny part about it is when Jamal Hill and Yuri Poskov both got hurt, they lost their titles. They didn't lose in the octagon until Alex knocked them both out. But at the time, Dana White told them, hey, give up your belts because you got hurt, right? How come Jon Jones doesn't have to give up his belt? Oh. How come Jon Jones never had to give up his belt when he got hurt and he was out for a year plus? Yuri and Jamal Hill had to give up their belts within like the same week when they got hurt. Is that not crazy? And that's just to move the UFC forward, right? And yes, Dana White did give them both a title shot in their next bout, right? But Jon Jones didn't have to give up his belt. I'm just saying, you can't talk about pound for pound with Dana White because he clearly has these biases towards Jon Jones. But the crazy part is he switches up his mind every so often. Dominic Reyes. When Jon Jones fought Dominic Reyes, in the post-conference, he was saying that Jon Jones lost that fight and he had it to Reyes. And he had a split with Thiago Santos before that. Jon Jones was still ranked number 1 with all that going on. Is that funny? Huh? If this was anybody else, he would have stripped their title. But since it's Jon Jones, he gave it to him. Since it's Jon Jones, he's going to give him Stipe. And Jon Jones is going to retire pound for pound number 1. That's all Dana White wants to do, even though Stipe is not the best guy in his division. But they're going to bill it as he's the best guy in the division. Watch the press conference. Watch the promotion saying Stipe is the greatest heavyweight and is currently the greatest fighter that Jon Jones could fight at this time. He's going to bill it as that. I just want to go back to one old video of Dana White. He's talking about Ngannou. And he's saying Jon Jones is scared of Ngannou. So what happens to that guy? What made you flip?
We said if he loses, he'd probably deserve a rematch. But, man, the idea of a Jon Jones fight seems awfully exciting right now. Jon came out, tweeted, said, show me the money. What appeals to you most? Because it seems like that would be an amazing super fight.
If I'm Jon Jones and I'm home watching this fight, I start moving to 85.
You think? But there you go. Jon Jones should run away from Ngannou. But he's talking to Shannon Sharp on his podcast, and he said that Jon Jones would have destroyed Ngannou. Like, he would have not made it close. So which is it, Dana? So is it Jon Jones scared of Ngannou, or is it Jon Jones would have destroyed Ngannou? Pick one. That's all we ask. But I want to know your thoughts. Do you guys think that Jon Jones is pound for pound number 1 today? Do you guys think he's not? You think he's top 5, top 2? What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments down below. And also, if you are new, please go and hit that subscribe button and like the video. Peace.